I see those things in my daughter. And it comes naturally to her. Nothing is forced upon. If one already has oily skin types, then one should consider more gel-based or water-based or, lighter lotion-based sunscreens. Benefits, cardiovascular benefits and all those things can be retained and maintained if we incorporate these kind of workouts.
Yeah. Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of Run Play Go Unfiltered. I'm Shivani Singh and we have with us today Dr. Priyanka Palmantri. In this episode, we will be demystifying the skin of sport, which in simple terms means all the skin issues that an athlete faces during intense training and the do's and don'ts from a dermatologist's perspective for a safe and healthy training plan. You know her as a top dermatologist and aesthetic physician. But what you may not know is Dr. Priyanka Mantri only stepped into sport at 38, battling back pain, fatigue, and years of never having played a sport in her life. Today at 47, she's a powerhouse, a strength athlete, cyclist, mother of two, and certified precision nutrition coach. In this segment, she brings together science and sweat, skin and strength, sharing everything athletes need to know, how to train and race with skin that's as resilient as their mindset. Let's jump into this and more with Dr. Priyanka in this very important conversation. So now let's talk about some other things which kind of appear to be very basic, but stuff like, let's talk about gear. You guys wear helmets for riding, right? Runners wear compression socks, sports bras for women. Now, how do they impact skin health? And we spoke about chafing when it came to sports bras. So how do they impact, our health during long hours of wearing them? For example, helmets. And what is there something that we can be cautious about and do better in terms of, especially in the hot weather that we are using them. I wear compression socks quite regularly. I feel that it helps me especially with the longer runs and the helmets specifically. Sports bras, we have basic understanding that you apply anti-chafing creams and all of that, but despite that, still a lot of damage sometimes gets done.
Yes. So talking about equipment and the gear that we wear, again, hygiene should be top priority. So helmet is sitting on your head for hours together. They have sweat pads in them which are absorbing your sweat. Correct. Generally, our tendency is we just come back home, just put it away, or maybe just let it dry and just put it away. Those sweat pads, helmets are washable.
Yeah.
They can be simply washed with some mild soap.
Correct.
And put to dry. The sweat pads over time can be changed. Replacements are available.
Correct.
So all of these things can make a really big difference in the long run. Talking about sports bras. Now, of course, every kind of sport bra wouldn't be appropriate for every woman. Correct. Because of the different sizes. Also, I feel that it's very important for us to understand the different kinds of support the sport bras offer. So
and
if you're
different support for different sports.
Different sport, different kind of structure of the sport bra for different sports.
Yeah.
If you're doing gentle activity like yoga, a low support bra is fine. For anything like, weightlifting or doing any gym work, a medium support is fine. But if you're doing impact sports like running or, sprinting or jumping or those kind of activities, I feel
sport,
high support sport bras are the ones that should be preferred for that kind of an activity.
Correct.
Again, taking care of how you wash them. It's always better to wash them by hand and to dry them out and, replace the pads if need be, if they are replaceable and all those kind of things. Now with cyclists, a very common problem we see is, chafing. I feel that, for chafing, there are 2-3 important points that need to be kept in mind. First and foremost is the bike fit. Your saddle positioning, its height, its tilt, its angle. Everything will determine how comfortable you feel riding for hours together.
Correct.
And I also feel that, as far as the sports gear is concerned, investing in a few specific, although expensive, but good standardized brands is very fruitful. It's, you can save up a little and invest in those specific things which you will feel, like cycling shorts. You can wear any kind of a jersey. You can wear a t-shirt over it. But cycling shorts where your groin is constant contact, your perineum is in constant contact. You need a good chamois out there to protect that part of your body. I think investing in good standardized brands, you can get to know about them from word of mouth from the other cyclists. Although they may be, costing you a few grands, but a well-made, a good technology chamois is really going to protect you rather than buying multiple cheaper ones just for color or just for pattern or, for whatever. Just invest in some good kind of sportswear. Shoes. A lot of runners, we have 5 pairs of shoes for different kind of runs. We come and we run, whatever run we do, we just, put them away. We need to understand that all that sweat, we put our socks for washing.
Exactly. They've gone.
We don't put our shoes for washing every now and then. We just dry them out and we wear them again. And we attract all that fungus and all that is those spores that are building inside. We are attracting them towards our skin. So the basic hygiene, it's very basic. You just need to be mindful of washing them. Just one point I would add here, just came to my mind is that in today's date, we are a lot into online shopping.
Correct.
But these specific things which are closest to our body and which may cause harm to our body, like sports bras or, bike shorts or stuff, I feel that it's always better to go to a store and try it out first. What fits you, what feels right, and then buy it. We invest a lot in online shopping. What turns out may not fit us well, may not be appropriate for us. But then we just keep it and we still use it because we have bought it and then we end up in trouble.
Agreed.
So some of these specific things like shoes, we always should go and buy according to our size and fit and everything. These sport gear also, a few of them, we should always, insist on going and to a proper store and putting them on, trying them on and then buying them.
Agreed. So, very interesting thing I wanted to also, since you are the specialist in that, so there's been this little bit of a movement, and at some point in time, let's say 5 years back, I would have been a part of that movement as well, where I feel that we use too much chemical on our bodies, right? Whether it's the body wash or the various shampoos or various other products that we use on everyday basis. And I felt that sunscreen was also a part of that. That there's too much chemical in that. There are too many ingredients in that, which at the end of the day, skin being the largest organ of my body, if I'm applying tip to toe every single day and maybe multiple times if I'm out. So my body is absorbing all of that through skin, right? And I was a little uncomfortable with that because that's too much chemical going into my body. But then, as you progressed, and especially, now there's no choice only, being an athlete. So I have converted fully. But still that thing stays in the mind somewhere that are there some ingredients in these products which could be harmful in the long run or at the shorter term, maybe are comedogenic or, which are not really that healthy for my skin. Although I don't have a choice, but is that a myth or now what's the fact and fiction?
A lot of ingredients in sunscreen, of course, sunscreens are all chemicals. So a lot of ingredients can also be carcinogenic and comedogenic. Talking about comedogenic, one should always, if one already has oily skin types, then one should consider more gel-based or water-based or, lighter lotion-based sunscreens. Now, thankfully, all the brands, they kind of do put across on their packaging that this is a non-comedogenic. One should always also try and read the labels to see. So any kind of oil-based, it'll be there, some certain kind of oil-based or coconut oil used as a base and all. So try avoid using those things if you already know that your skin is oily and comedogenic. If your skin is dry, then you can pretty much go ahead and use these kind of sunscreens. So we should start also reading the labels a little bit. And Google is there. We can always Google the ingredients to see. And in general now, the carcinogenic things, the ingredients that were carcinogenic are mostly now, banned for use. So they are as it is not included in the compositions that are largely available to the public. So that way, anyway, still research is ongoing. Maybe you never know the next line of ingredients may also turn carcinogenic. It's always ongoing. We just need to be aware, read the labels, have a little bit of knowledge around it. I feel that whatever you're consuming, whatever you're putting, whatever goes inside your body, one should have a know-how of what it is. What are you exposing yourself? Be it food, be it, products, be it cosmetics. One should be just aware.
Yeah. And are there any ingredients that, I'm reading the label, but should there be some red flag ingredients that you should stay away from?
Like, oxybenzone, avobenzone, parabens. These things are the most prominent ones, which are now very, known to be carcinogenic and harmful to the skin in the long run. So yes, just keep an eye out for these. And there are a lot of other complicated names of ingredients. But like I said, it's always good to Google first, carcinogenic ingredients in sunscreens. Just keep those things in mind and just check the product you're picking up. Just check it. It's not just about the color of the the product, the packaging, the marketing. It's what is inside.
Exactly.
Because you're consuming what is inside it.
And what's the composition of it?
You may be attracted to the packaging, but after all, you're consuming what is inside that packaging. So one needs to be reading some labels and knowing what is harmful.
For example, the simplest thing, parabens was a part of everything that we consumed, right? The shampoos, the body washes, the face washes,
sulfates, parabens, they were everywhere and we were consuming them like anything.
Correct.
Now we are aware that, now products are also coming out in the market. If there is a demand, there will always be a supply.
Of course.
So once there is awareness, when the people demand, we want sulfate free, we want paraben free, there will be research. Correct. They will come up with products which are sulfate free and paraben free and they will give it to you.
Yes.
So we need to express that, we need to know and we need to start expressing our demands.
Correct. So this little consciousness about reading the labels and finding the ingredients which probably can be avoided very easily and making the shift to the product which doesn't have that is a great idea.
It is, absolutely.
So Priyanka, you recently also, we spoke about it the other day in the morning, you also trained as the precision nutrition coach now.
Yes.
And which is such a, honestly, as an athlete, as a fellow athlete, when I heard that, it was a very interesting thing because you being an athlete yourself, you being a dermatologist and a doctor, so you understand a whole lot of what goes inside our bodies, and now being a coach. I think it's a deadly combination. So I would also like to know, how did that transition happen? But before that, since you're dealing with a lot of us, what are some of the nutritional deficiencies that you see in most of the athletes all the time and that gets skipped, we don't really realize, and then suddenly we come up and say, hey, I'm not feeling that great for the last couple of weeks or months.
Right.
So what are some of the obvious ones that should be on the radar?
Right. So back in the day when I myself started,
and I'm sorry, but also that also reflects in the skin, since we are linking it all.
Right. So back in the day when I myself started as an athlete, as being a doctor, we had this norm of getting our routine checkups, health checkups, blood work done every year. But when I was exposed to this community of other athletes, when I started, interacting with them, a lot of them are close friends and all, they were always kind of, saying there's no energy and we bonked, we didn't feel great in our runs. Falling ill every now and then, catching infections very easily. So we used to see left, right and center.
Correct.
So then that is when we started inquiring, are you even doing your routine blood work, blood checkups and all? We started insisting, starting from our friends who are into sport, that this is a must. A basic health checkup every year is an absolute must. Some people were doing some checkups but not including certain specific, parameters into it, were not checking on those things. So we kind of broadly created a list of things one must be checking depending upon age group also. Then the friends started getting those done and coming back to us. And a friend who has already done several full marathons, whatever needs to be corrected in the ongoing months. And every 6 months, at least for an athlete, these parameters should be rechecked. Also, if you're targeting an important, a major event, a major race is coming up, we should all get tested a couple of months before and know where we are lagging behind. Closer to event, all those vitamin levels should be on the higher side of the range. We should try and keep our electrolytes, our vitamin levels, our protein levels on a higher side of the range, closer to race day. So we should have sufficient time to make that correction, to build it up and to consciously work with someone or by ourselves to build it up, so that when we reach the race day, around the race day, our body is its fittest self.
We are at our best at that time.
Exactly. So it's not just about fueling your race. It's what your body, what kind of a body you're carrying into the race.
Yeah.
Immediately after finishing a session, we have a window where we should immediately feed our bodies with protein and carbohydrates in a certain proportion to start the recovery process there and then.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's all inter-individual, how much macros you need, how much micros you need. But then one has to be checking it, one has to be aware, and one needs to individualize it.
Absolutely.
So that is very important, and it's still lagging out there in the community. Into your process of things that you have to be doing. That is very important.
Correct.
So there is a way around all of this.
The first step is awareness.
Awareness that one is going, possibly it's this, checking it up. And then, you know, finding the way around, maybe with expert advice, with your coach's advice, everything. But yes, we can absolutely train as much as we want to, as heavy as we want to through this perimenopause. There are certain things which are, you know, training wise that are must, you know, very beneficial in this stage of life, is that one is strength training.
Yeah.
Because once you reach the age around menopause, your muscle density, muscle mass, bone density,
comes down.
Everything starts to dwindle because of the reducing hormones in your body. So you can definitely support it and, you know, slow down the whole process of muscles getting wasted by incorporating appropriate resistance training and strength training. And the number 2, sprint interval training. A lot of benefits, cardiovascular benefits and all those things can be retained and maintained if we incorporate these kind of workouts. So, you know, our goals may be something, but then our long-term goals also should be there.
No, that's a great input. Actually, I never thought of interval training in that. Although we do it, it's a part of our weekly training, but I never thought of it like that.
Yes. So we should have our short-term goals, we should have our immediate goals, we should also have a long-term goal.
Absolutely.
That, you know, that should go beyond the age of 60 for us.
Correct.
You know, when I'm 60, I should still be able to do all of this.
Absolutely.
Maybe the intensities won't be that high, but I will still be able to do all of this.
And a lot of it is also about longevity at a broader level, right?
You should be able to hit 70, 80 doing all of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Here, I would also mention that, you know, all of us don't have the luxury to sleep a continuous 7 hour, 8 hour every day. We have house calls, we have office calls, we have kids who don't sleep, who don't, you know, are not willing to sleep before you, and you know, all of those issues
Or
happening.
we have to wake up at 4 a.m. for example. It's a very practical thing.
You know? But then here is a small thing we can incorporate in our daily routines, is those short non-deep sleep rest periods, which can be just about, you know, 10-15 minutes of your time. You just switch off your mind, you close your eyes, maybe create an environment of a little dark room and just try to sleep.
Power naps.
Yeah, those are called as power naps, and they're extremely beneficial. Then, you know, they would help you to reduce the amount of total night sleep that you would need.
Correct.
2 power naps taken, just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, will do you wonders. I've personally incorporated them over these past few years after reading about it, and it really works wonders.
Fantastic.
You wake up after 15 minutes, you haven't actually slept. You are a little aware of your surroundings, but then your mind is not drifting here and there. It's like a meditation, you know.
You're in a state of rest.
You're in a state of, you just
rest.
silent your body. You don't move, just silent your body. And just go through it, and you automatically come out of it in 10-15 minutes.
Correct.
And then you feel immediately refreshed. So I think those small things,
it's a great tip.
You can actually incorporate, anybody can incorporate in your office, in your house, in your car, in your parking.
Correct.
You can just, you know, incorporate it anywhere, as long as you switch your mind off.
Not while driving.
Not while driving, absolutely. Unless the driver is driving you.
True.
Those 10-15 minutes can be stolen from the day by anybody.
Completely agree.
Any one of us can, you know, just steal that much.
Absolutely.
Nobody can say, no, I don't have that much time. You absolutely have it. Just take it for yourself and do yourself a favor.
Absolutely. And Priyanka, tell me, is there, like, you know, we know about, and you spoke about this window post the workout for protein, for example, and certain nutritions that we should have within that golden window, so to say. Is there also a, you know, a skin care routine or regimen that you should incorporate within, let's say, 30 to 60 minutes of finishing a workout? Are there some things that we should be conscious about? Simple things that kind of make a big difference in the long run?
Yeah. So like I would say, let's take the example of runners.
Yeah.
So most of us get into a car, go
Yeah.
to a certain place,
Yeah.
and we finish our runs and we chit chat and all. The least we can do is, wash our face with cold water. At least whatever sweat
Right away.
that is on our skin is immediately washed away, even if we don't use a proper face wash or a
Yes.
soap. But at least get it off our body
Yeah,
by using
yeah.
some cold water. It will also help in the heat regulation.
Yeah.
Also to carry a change of clothing.
Yeah.
That is immediately accessible. Just put it in your car and
That's
maybe just,
right.
get your shoes off and wear a pair of
Yeah.
open slippers.
Yeah.
So that your skin over your feet can breathe, So those basic things
Yes.
is, I think, every runner should be doing. And, it's very easy. You just
Yeah,
carry
yeah,
it in your bag.
Absolutely.
You carry your protein, you consume it within, and those
Correct.
are the things that should just
Correct.
come naturally
Correct,
to you.
correct.
Yeah. So
This should
those
be
are
the regimen, basically simple regimen.
Yeah, it should just come naturally. Like, part of your run. It's just a part of your run. You do it and you finish off. And, if you're wearing a cap, you just take it off and, wipe yourself down. And I won't insist on sunscreen every time, but this is the basic.
Yeah.
This is absolutely the basic. It should just flow naturally.
This should become like hygiene. Post run, post ride,
Wipe yourself down,
post
splash some cold water,
Yeah.
carry a change, wear open footwear, put away your shoes,
Yeah. A
basic
little bag in your car
Little
at all
bag, yeah,
times, which is like the moment you stop your watch,
Yeah.
you just
So
get
like
into it.
we plan our bottles and
Yeah.
we plan our everything, our whatever to put in our bottles. We
Yeah,
keep it
yeah.
ready in our kitchen.
Correct.
Just keep this bag ready
Same
in your
thing.
room. Simple.
Very interesting thing which comes to my mind is, and I hear this from a lot of my friends and other non-sports part of the family and the community. A lot of women specifically are a little hesitant about entering active sports like we do, also because of the fear that they have in their mind about skin getting stressed and looking older. So what would be your message to them?
Well, I feel that sport one indulges to feel powerful. Like if you're getting into a sport because how you would look doing a sport is, then you've got it all wrong.
Yeah.
Sport is a feeling.
Yeah.
You indulge in it for power.
Yeah.
Now, whatever sport you indulge in, the kind of training that you do will shape your body. So, if you're doing powerlifting, the kind of training you do will build your muscles. You will appear more muscular. If you're into running, to a certain extent, your muscles will get wasted. So, you will appear much more leaner. And, so on and so forth. So, the appearance would be shaping you. I mean, the shape you achieve is basically the kind of training
The
you're
sport
doing.
and the sport you play.
The sport you play and the
Yeah.
kind of training you put in.
Yeah.
So, I feel personally that, in anyways, we have this fear, especially women, of bulking up if you're lifting weights. But then we don't have those kind of hormones in our body.
to support that bulking.
I mean, in fact, the women who go up on stage to flaunt big muscles,
yeah.
they have to rely on certain other things to
Correct.
achieve that kind of a shape. It doesn't come naturally
Yeah,
to
yeah.
them.
It's not an organic
It is
mechanism
not. It is not.
in our bodies.
You're not designed to. God hasn't designed
Yeah.
you. You're
Yeah.
scientifically not designed to even
Yeah.
be able to go there and achieve
Correct.
that. So one has to set aside all these fears and enjoy the sport for what it brings to you. Otherwise, like appearances, I feel it's a very, very
I think the sense of achievement, confidence,
exactly what
your
there's
mind.
so much more.
I
sport
would
brings
say,
to you.
I would say, and a sport is not just about the physical. In fact, for me, it's 60-40. It's the mental.
It is mental.
Is the mental character that it builds around it.
Yeah.
And that's a much larger.
As far as looking
when-
older doing a sport,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can pretty much take care of it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can take care of
And
the
that's
skin.
why, and that's why this conversation was so important today, because we have somehow kind of given up and kind of accepted that it's a choice. If I'm playing a sport, if I'm an athlete, then this is one aspect that I have to give up. There's no choice. So it's either this or that. But maybe through some of these measures that we spoke today,
Yes,
a
absolutely.
lot of it can be
Lot of it can be addressed and
managed.
can be
Yeah.
fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
And can be prevented.
Exactly, and we can actually have the both. To whatever extent that
You
we
have
can.
you have products you can apply
Yeah,
to protect
yeah,
you from the
absolutely.
sun.
Yeah.
you have various, you can plan your food, you can plan your diet around how much your protein you're consuming, so that you are able to retain the muscle.
Totally.
Everything is possible. You just need to know about it. You need to be implementing it.
Yeah. And very interestingly, you use this word power associated with sport right now, and I loved it. So, a question to you. After being a doctor for life and now being this extreme athlete that you are, where do you feel most powerful? At the podium or at the clinic? Because both are extremely powerful places.
They are. Well, to this question, I would say that, podium and sport is very personal. It's like, there is a sense of personal achievement over there.
Right.
Like it's me that I've put in the work and I can see the results for myself.
Yes.
As far as clinical practice and being a doctor, whatever I put out there is service. So it kind of brings a different kind of satisfaction, a different kind of, power, in the sense that I can give back to the community.
And you're in a position to be able to
share my knowledge. In fact, I became a doctor for this very particular reason. So podiums bring power for myself, personal, and being a doctor makes me feel powerful that I'm able to give out to the community.
Yeah, and you're able to contribute in a very meaningful
both
manner.
Make me feel powerful.
How absolutely phenomenal is that?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that I chose this profession, and so glad that I, turned towards becoming an athlete, because everything is now integrating and aligning so well that even my kids has, they are also into lifting and sport and all, and they do what they see. So what I was not as a kid. I see those things in my daughter, and it comes naturally to her. Nothing is forced upon.
And Priyanka, now my favorite part of this segment. Let's get into some quick fires.
All right. Let's get ready for that.
Absolutely. What's always in your race day bag?
Well, always a sunscreen and Vaseline. Yeah.
Anti-chafing.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. So sunscreen, spray, stick or lotion?
Well, I would say lotion, regular use for the face, stick maybe for topping up your sunscreen, and spray for the body.
All three.
We should avoid spray on the face.
So, one skin rule that you'll never break?
Washing my face at night. One must always do that. Even if you have makeup on or not, wash your face well before you sleep and put on your recovery things, whatever you have to. That one should always do.
Best recovery product under 1,000 rupees?
I think there are several, but moisturizer, basic moisturizer or sunscreen. And if you're talking about supplements, then I will lay my bet on this collagen.
Stronger skin or stronger mind?
Well, to that I would say strong mind and clear skin.
Lovely. We need to have the best of both.
Yes, why not? We can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Priyanka. It has been such a pleasure. And I think we managed to speak about so many varied topics, and you shared so many pieces of information which were lacking, at least in my repertoire. So as an athlete, so a lot of people will get benefited by it. Thank you so much again for coming on the show. And it's over to the audience now to pull the best out of it and build it into their everyday practice.
Right. Thank you, Shivani. I'm so glad I could, speak my mind freely and hopefully break some myths out there, especially amongst the athletes about skincare. Always happy to help and, happy to get any questions that may be put to you about it. Thank you so much.
Till next time.
Yes, until next time. We have a lot to talk.
Absolutely.
And meanwhile, we'll have our morning conversations over tea.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much.